I'd like to really welcome Tenshin Roshi coming all this way. Thank you. I did want to talk about showing up, and Roshi's showed up from 10,000 miles away, so doing better than any of us. I also wanted to preface the talk. I was sitting thinking, a bit like when you're 10, all you can think about is food, you know. If you're going to give a talk and you're sitting for half an hour, anyway, from me, all I'm thinking about is the talk. And what came to mind was that I felt slightly uncomfortable because I've had kind of, you know, you have writer's block. I've had talker's block since before Christmas. I think I've maybe doing 2 talks a week and then Sesshin for so many years. I've suddenly realised I didn't have anything that I felt was worth saying, and also has come along with this, which you may be familiar with yourself, is that I actually don't know what Zen is anymore. I've kind of lost track. Maybe you shouldn't be sitting here with me. I don't know what Zen is. I did really know what it was, because when I first started practicing, I set up a sitting group within 2 years, and I wrote a book with Tony called The Elements of Zen. So what full of shit was I, you know, after 5 years? And then 35 years later, I realised actually I don't know at all. But we can talk about that later, because I do want to talk about not knowing. I'm not offering my not knowing as a virtue, by the way. It's an open thing that we could talk about. But one of the reasons I wanted to say it was that if I ask you to contribute or say something, don't feel I'm asking you from the perspective of you being tested or this is a Dharma combat or anything. I would really like to know what you think. It'd be handy for me and useful for me. And I wanted to start with a phrase that I know Roshi's used before. It's a Woody Allen phrase, and he says 80% of success is showing up. So all of us here, at least we've put in the 80%. We're here. And in this context, it's pretty obvious what showing up is. But I also wonder what it means for you as well. What does showing up mean?
Coming back after 17 years.
Yeah. What does showing up mean for you then, Roger?
I don't really know. I'm a bit like you, I'm a bit lost for words.
Okay.
Really.
You don't know. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? What does showing up mean? For you personally, I don't necessarily mean showing up to retreats or...
For me, it's not running away.
Not running away, okay. Right. Running away from...
Whatever difficulties I'm facing.
Okay.
Not evading, but actually...
Yeah. Through your life.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Doing it when you really don't feel like it.
Yeah. And what's the 20% then? That's left?
Staying in bed.
Staying in bed. No, I mean, he says 80% of success is showing up, so that leaves 20%.
Actually
It's
doing
also
it.
fun.
Doing it, I suppose.
Doing it,
what you're
yeah,
supposed to
doing
do,
it,
yeah,
yeah,
rather than just
yeah.
sitting there, you know.
For me, there's that expression they use about the military, putting someone in harm's way. Well, if the reverse of that is putting yourself in what's the opposite of harm, good, then I suppose it's a bit like that.
Okay, so for you showing up, or the other 20% is putting yourself in front of the firing line, is that?
Well, you could say that.
Something like that, yeah.
I'm just exposing yourself to something
Yeah,
I think will nurture you. And
that's the word, isn't it? Exposure, yeah. And that's the inhibition that we'll all have. If I ask you something, I know folk have inhibition about showing themselves in case they're judged. And this is connected with Sesshin, because, as Roshi said this morning, Sesshin literally means to unify the mind, and some think Sesshin is the heart of a practice. You know, it's one chance we have the opportunity to give full attention to our life without distraction. But I'm also conscious that to be here is requires a lot of you, investment in time, taking time off work, energy, money, separation from your family, and notwithstanding what I imagine many of you felt, as I often do, on the way to retreat, or the idea of retreat, and tell me if I'm wrong, because many of you are seasoned practitioners, but a real resistance to being here. Is that? No? No?
Oh yeah.
No?
I think so.
Total fear.
Pardon?
Total fear. I do not want to be there.
Yeah, okay.
Coming here was fine. When I actually arrived, I was a bit
You're a bit,
wondering if I'd made the right choice.
what have I done? Yeah.
Oh, what have
Yeah.
I let myself in for this time?
So how many folk felt resistance last week to being here? Yeah, thank you. Okay, 2 hands. Okay, so you know we're after many years we're still feeling some resistance. Why do you think? What is the resistance? Why do we feel resistance?
Because there's nowhere to hide.
Okay,
You're just on your cushion with your own mind.
but you didn't feel any resistance.
No, I like doing that.
Okay, so-
but I can see why people would be resistant.
Okay, so
Sitting.
you're answering for other folk. Yeah?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
I like my head. It's
Okay.
all right.
Okay. So what about the other folk that did have resistance? What was the source of that resistance?
I think there's a lot of comfort in just your routines, even
Yeah.
if your routines are a bit sort of tiring and destructive sometimes. It's comfortable.
It's what
Their daily
ordinary
routine is
your ordinary routine.
familiar.
Yeah.
It's difficult, you know.
There's plenty of other stuff I could be doing,
Plenty of other stuff you could
Yeah.
be doing. Yeah.
but yeah.
I think it's always a challenge. I think when you come on session, no matter how many you've done, there's always some challenge to go through, I think,
Sure.
for me at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't always want that.
You don't always want the challenge. Yeah.
Anticipating leg pain.
Yeah.
Oh, anticipating pain.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's easy, Peter. You can do that. That's not to worry about. I think some of you have been even resistant in answering to me what your resistance is. But maybe I'm pushing you too much.
You know, can I?
Sure.
When I left Stockholm on Friday, going here was sort of the opposite resistance. I felt, wow, I want to just quit this
Great.
whole shit
Yeah.
happening in Stockholm at that day.
Yeah.
So for me,
There's a relief.
it's a relief and doesn't feel that good. That kind of relief doesn't feel, but it's sort of a relief.
Yeah.
But I'm still there in the situation that this thing brings up. What happens in
Back
a
at home.
terrorist back at home? A
Yeah,
terrorist
yeah.
attack and
Okay.
everything.
Well, thank you, because that kind of gives me, segs me into what I wanted to say, and because it's all kind of connected about the 20%, because the 80% is showing up, and the 20% is relieving yourselves, if you like, of that way of thinking, of bringing that to the retreat, and the resistances that we have to really embracing our life. And one way we can do that is to really be present to this. You know, we've got 4 full days, and I really like it if everybody gave it, you know, their all, and really was present and here. I've written down here what often happens when we arrive is we arrive, as you described, with the idea that we're going to find, you know, it's going to be some relief from stress, we're going to find some new way of being, it's all going to be hunky-dory, and then when we arrive, the same chatter, the same thoughts go on. But this is the opportunity to really work with them. So if there's any gap between your expectations and what you've actually found, that is exactly the gap that in our daily lives, certainly for me, is what causes suffering, maybe too strong a word, but certainly a lack of ease, a lack of being, you know, present in my life. So that it's a really opportunity to work with that gap. And, you know, for all of you, it won't be the case. I mean, some of you may be feeling really fine to be here, and you know, and I'm glad about that. And then what within that context, with us, Sesshin is also an opportunity for us to be with other people. And being with other people obviously can cause friction. And and what causes the friction normally is our particular view of the way things should be or the way the people should be. This is the chance to let go of those views and exercise kindness and tolerance for the eccentricities that we all have and the irritations that no doubt some of you will feel. Now, the other question I wanted to ask you before I finish here is, do you come to session, or do you even come to practice as a kind of band-aid or a way of augmenting, is that right to say, augmenting your life?
I think so.
To just make it easier, to feel easier in yourself, for things to be less fretful for you, which is perfectly legitimate. I'm not, diminishing that. Or do you come on session, or are you in practice because you're really interested in transformation?
For me, it's because I've run out of other options.
Run out of other options, okay. Okay. Yeah, that might be the case for a lot, but yeah. No, I mean, I'm serious. What's it? What do you feel about it? Do you feel about it as a way of finding some more ease or comfort in your life, and practice will provide that? Or are you really interested in a real transformation where you actually flip the way you experience the world and see the world?
I think, for me personally, I think it's a chance for me to go deeper and deeper, probably into my fear. And if I get the chance to do that, if I have the chance to focus and do that, then there's change possible in
Okay.
all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of my fear is the feeling that I'm going to go through the same thing again and I'm not transforming.
Okay.
So it's sort of,
Yeah.
if only.
Yeah. Another opportunity missed or passed.
Oh,
And,
it's
yeah.
like, I don't know how.
And what happens then? Does doubt come up then? Or?
Try again harder.
Try again harder?
Like nothing about,
Ah.
try again.
Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Because what happens for me then when you say try again harder, I'm thinking, no, Miranda, try again. Don't try again. Don't even try hard. Just be here. Don't try. What's
that quote about ever try, ever fail?
Okay.
Try again, fail better.
It's a nice answer. Fail better. Okay. Okay.
Could I just
Sure.
ask one thing? Do the flowers try to blossom?
I give in, do they? No, they don't.
I just do.
Okay. You feel sure of that, yeah?
Sorry. I was looking out that window and I saw them.
You're seeing one up there, yeah? Yeah. They certainly don't complain when they're in the shade, that I'm aware of.
No, but our lives are blossoming in the same
Pardon?
way. Our lives are blossoming in the same way. We don't have to strive.
Is that for us all or just for you?
Well, I can only speak for myself.
Okay, well, that's good. So if you use the first person pronoun, I'm much happier. I get kind of, when you make a generalized statement, it sticks for me, you know.
Sensei.
Pardon?
Sorry to come back
Yeah.
here. It's my chance. If I don't try, I'll just go back to the repetition that I'm doing anyway. So if I don't try, I don't know what I quite mean by trying, but if I don't engage,
Yeah.
then that's worse. Like Ian was saying.
So if you didn't, how would it feel if you didn't try?
You might get stuck.
Would you feel that you're wasting your time, or?
I'd be repeating the same old rubbish that I do anyway.
But aren't you repeating the same old rubbish by trying?
I give up.
Perfect. You look, you've given up. No, thank you, Miranda, because I really appreciate what you're saying, because when we talk about fear and doubt and our insecurities, it's only when we bring them with us to a situation that we have the opportunity for new possibilities to arise, and unless we bring them with us, then there's no space for something new to come up, you know.
They come anyway.
Pardon?
They come anyway.
They come anyway, yeah. Okay. I've I don't know if everybody gets tricycle, but they have the kind of hints for the day. And before I left, one came up, it said, which is completely appropriate to what you've just said, or what we've just said. In surrendering to our deepest fears, we put ourselves in touch with the fundamental awareness of just being, the true ground that is always available to us. It's rather, it's a bit holy for me, but yeah. Can we surrender to our deepest fears? And let me ask you this, in this context. There's a story I read about Alan Watts, and he'd been at a funeral, and one of the monks at the ceremony was wailing with distress at the death of this. It was a nun. And afterwards, Alan Watts went to see him. Why were you wailing that way? Why were you so upset? You're a Zen monk. There's all these preconceptions and the monk said, well, he knew the nun really well, and they'd started training together, and he really loved her, and he was just sad that she was dead. Anyway, later, he asked a Korean, it was a Theravadan teacher, a Thai Theravadan teacher, and described the situation to him, and the Theravadan teacher said that if the monk's understanding had been deeper, he wouldn't have responded in that way. I think that's a really interesting. Who do you think? Who? If you had to vote for the monk wailing, or for the Theravadan Thai teacher saying his understanding wasn't very deep, who would you go for?
The monk wailing.
The monk wailing.
I think.
Yeah, the monk wailing.
More honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's you bring where you are with you.
Sensei, what is Theravadan?
Theravadan. It's a different tradition within Buddhism. It's kind of inside out to us. They impose lots and lots of different rules on the basis of this will allow you to free yourself of attachment. Whereas we come from the other way, that if we free ourselves from attachment inside, we won't have to. We'll intuitively obey the ethical rules of the outside. But it's a very generalized and small summary, but yeah. So I thought today I'd just go back to the beginning, really, and I've written this. I'm a bit like those cooks that be on telly that pull out something that they cooked before. This is because I haven't got a lot to say. I've had to pull out stuff I wrote before. So this is like a summary of what the Buddha realized that I've written down. And I'll read it to you, what I've said. What we see as our identity, our small self, is the part of ourselves that always feels as though it's on its way out, and it often feels unsettled and threatened. The historical Buddha saw this and called it suffering or dukkha. He came to this realization after taking on the problem of old age, sickness and death. He worked on this problem in ways typical of his time, extreme asceticism and mental disciplines, and finally they all failed him, and he returned to meditation as his sole and persistent tool. And then the story of how he sat, wasn't going to move. When he did attain enlightenment, as I understand it, he didn't gain any particular information, nor did he gain any superpowers. If he did attain superpowers, he wasn't respectful of people who exercised them. And he didn't discover any deities. What he did discover was the true nature of his identity, which was, and he calls them the 3 marks of existence. And that's, his realization is that everything is one thing, we are that one thing, and that no separation is what that thing is, and more importantly, it's ungraspable. Why do you think it's ungraspable? Why is it ungraspable?
Can't taste your own tongue.
Okay, can't taste your own tongue, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
If you're trying to grasp something, it's other than what you already are.
Okay. So he came to this awareness of the 3 marks of existence, which I've talked about in Liverpool. And when we first hear about the 3 marks of existence, certainly when I heard about them, I found them very discomforting. They didn't seem to offer what I thought was, they are suffering, no self, and impermanence. They're not exactly a trio that fills you full of joy, are they? You know, when you first hear them. There's no sex, drugs, or rock and roll in suffering, impermanence, and no self. And I've been thinking about them. And I also want to talk about not knowing when I think about it. If I remember to talk about not knowing. But if somebody were to present you, and I've asked the people in Liverpool, and I'm interested in it because it kind of gives some indication of your, and for you, feedback to you of what is, you know, what's the most scary place for you. If I asked you which of those 3, suffering, no self, or impermanence, which one would feel the most discomforting or the most unmanageable?
I started my practice through reading that, actually.
Through reading the
Buddha,
3 marks of existence,
the suffering, actually.
Suffering it was for you?
Yeah, very much so. And,
okay.
I thought, thank God I'm not alone.
Okay, yeah, what a relief.
You think you're the only one that's suffering, I did at the time, and that was quite a big release for me.
Sure.
And then, strangely, I saw Maezumi Roshi do a talk in Rigpa, and he asked everybody what the major thing was in Buddhism, you know, assembly. What is the most important thing? And nobody got the answer, and he said, stop suffering. And that was when I started to practice.
Okay.
So that was really big for me.
Thank you. Anyone else? What?
Suffering.
Suffering?
Same, absolutely.
No self.
No self, yeah.
No
yeah.
self.
No self. Yeah. Impermanence. They're all quite scary, aren't they?
It used to be that no self scared me the most.
Yeah.
But now it's suffering. I've got bored of that. Yeah. The experience of suffering.
Experience of suffering, yeah. Of course, you know, it's a phony question in a way because there's no separation. They're all interconnected, and they're all, you know, as Genpo Roshi would say, the 3 corners of a triangle that spins. There's no difference between them. But for each of us, I think for me, there was no self. That was the, you know, many times I crawled up to the pit of no self. I had to look down and backed off. Thought, oh, don't want to go down there. So, but the reason I asked is that I think it is suffering, and the reason I think it's suffering is based around, and that's why I wanted to go back to the basics of what the Buddha said, was the 4 noble truths, and the first one is that there is suffering, and the second is that suffering arises, you know, some translations of desire, but I find it easy to say attachment. And it seems to me that attachment is the root of the whole business, because we're attached to permanence, we're attached to the idea of this unique identity, separate self, and we can also be attached to suffering. It's a place we know, it's a place we're familiar with, and it's maybe more comfortable to be there than to be somewhere that we don't know, that's unknown. So all three of them we can stick with, whereas so they're all attachments. Interestingly, and thankfully, the third truth is that there is a release from this. There is a path out of it, and the path is the Eightfold Noble Path. I sometimes feel rather censorious of myself that I haven't really focused on the Eightfold Noble Path. Roshi will correct me, but if I'm wrong. But the essence of Zen practice, the reason is that of the Eightfold Noble Path, we've chosen the path of meditation. So it's a kind of like a shortcut. We can, if we're really present on a daily basis to our lives, and we're really present in our meditation, then all else will fall into place. It's not easy to do, and we do need to follow the Eightfold Noble Path. But that's the part of the Four Noble Truths that I felt I've neglected and intend to look into more. But non-attachment brings me on to not knowing, because if you don't have attachment, then that carries with it not knowing. That's right, isn't it? That's a fair enough supposition, isn't it? If you're not attached, then you don't know what it is that you're moving into. You haven't got an attachment. You're moving into the unknown all the time, so it's not known. And I really, of all the ways of describing this practice, the one I like most is the path of not knowing, because I find that really interesting, and it's wonderful. It really is the path of not knowing, and you're never going to know. So you've got something to keep you busy for the rest of your life. You're not going to be bored. It's always going to be unknown. It's always going to be a new path, to some new way of thinking, to a new idea. But it only depends on you letting go of an attachment to whatever it is, to your own conditioning, to your own views, to what's right, to what's wrong. And as I was thinking about that, I came across, I don't know if anybody's seen, there's a really interesting website which somebody gave me called Brain Pickings. It's the most unusual thing, Brain Pickings, and it's edited and put together by a Bulgarian lady who lives in New York, and she has the most wonderful things in it. Last year I was talking about Martha Graham, the dancer, and in this brain picking thing, she gave a quote from Martha Graham, and she talked about divine uncertainty. And that really stays with me, because they're not two things that we normally put together, divine and uncertainty. I mean, I think most people think, certainly in monotheistic religions, divinity would be considered to be the opposite of uncertainty. She calls it divine uncertainty. Anyway, I don't know whether is Tomasz here. Yeah. Oh, Tomasz! I've got an extract by a Polish poet, and I can't pronounce her name, but maybe you'll know who it is if I say it. She's called Wisława Szymborska. Say it again. Suala bis. I give in. Okay. Anyway, she's a Polish poet who received a Nobel Prize, and she's written something which I love. It's called "How Our Certitudes Keep Us Small and the Generative Power of Not Knowing." How our certitudes keep us small and the generative power of not knowing. Wonderful title. And she goes on to say, attempt what is not certain. Certainty may or may not come later. It may then be, and now this is, I don't understand this sentence, maybe you can help me. I really like the rest of it. She says, attempt what is not certain. Certainty may or may not come later. it may then be a valuable delusion. What does she mean by that? It may then be a valuable delusion.
Not certainty.
Pardon?
Certainty is it?
Certainty may or may not come later. It may then be a valuable delusion.
Sensei, might that be the sense that when you decide something, you have a belief or whatever, that it makes your life easy. You don't have to question. You don't have to re-encounter yourself.
So it's a valuable delusion.
A valuable delusion.
So the certainty intrinsically is wrong, but the delusion is useful.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that right?
Okay. I'll put that out there.
You know, I read a book review yesterday on the train saying how nearly everything that we live with, we don't really know. I mean, how does sellotape actually stick? I don't know how to do that. And there's millions of parts of our life, we just have a belief that we know it all, but nearly everything we don't know. We've got a little area of expertise. The rest of it, we haven't got a clue.
Yeah, and in cosmology, the smaller you go and the bigger you go, the more you don't know. Yeah. She also says, in every work of art, something appears that does not previously exist, and so by default you work from what you know to what you don't know. And the reason that resonated for me was what I said at the very beginning, that I've definitely worked in this practice from what I do know or what I felt to know to a place where I don't know. And I hope it's a useful place, but I'll tell you later. I just want to read you something that she wrote. I don't want to get into politics, but this is so apposite, so suitable. But, where is it? All sorts of dictators, fanatics and demagogues struggling for power by way of a few loudly shouted slogans also enjoy their jobs, and they too perform their duties with inventive fervour. Well, yes, but they know, in quotation marks, and whatever they know is enough for them once and for all. They don't want to find out about anything else, since that might diminish their argument's force. And any knowledge that doesn't lead to new questions quickly dies out. However, if it fails to die out, it maintains the temperature required. In the most extreme cases, if it doesn't die out, well known from ancient and modern history, it poses a lethal threat to society. So she's basically saying that dictators and demagogues cause suffering because they really know.
That's true of the human condition.
Exactly, and thank you, because that was, I've got to say, don't be, we can be as harsh as we like about these demagogues and these dictators, but it's exactly what we do as well. We bring our certainty and our views and our demands and the way things should be to bear on the people around us and on our families and friends. So, in the extreme, they cause wars, these people, but we also cause little minor battles everywhere, is the way we are.
And in ourselves.
And in ourselves, yeah.
I think for me, Sensei, it's because, speaking personally, and it might be related widely, is that we want permanence. We want something permanent.
Yeah.
It's facing the fact that there isn't anything permanent that frightens us at times.
Yeah. It's a safe place to be, isn't it? You know where to move and how to move and what to do. Yeah.
That's one of the nice things about retreat, though. The bell goes, you get up, you come in, you sit. There's a prescription as to what to do. And as long as you know the prescription, you can actually really, for me, find it quite spacious, because you're doing what's expected. You're completing your practice. Is what you are.
Yeah. And that's why, we provide this vessel, this vehicle.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody, by the way, who helped set all this up. It's a huge amount of work goes into setting these things up. And it is exactly as you say, to provide a vessel in which you can just it's a slight paradox, but you can focus on yourselves. You You can give full attention to what fascinates you most.
Absolutely.
Can I say something about the poem before?
Yeah.
So maybe instead of thinking of it as being useful, it could be that the value is just in it being visible in some sense. too,
Yeah.
If you look for it.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. It's not easy to do that, though, is it?
No.
No. Yeah.
Sensei, I was thinking that you mentioned earlier about useful certainty.
Say again.
You mentioned earlier about useful certainty,
Yeah.
and then you started talking about politicians.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, the way our system works, politicians get sort of 3 weeks in the job and then have to redesign the health service or the MOD or the government or the Foreign Office, and I kind of, while we criticise them for that certainty, we always need that certainty to do.
I'm not criticising regular politicians. I appreciate, you've been in the heart of the beast, so you really know.
I know I couldn't do it because I don't have that deluded idea
that you can fix the world. But, I'm sure a lot of them are sincere and authentic, and I'm not, condemning politicians. It's just these serious extremists who really feel that actually, they could kill us in order to make us believe what they believe in, is what I was talking about.
No, but it's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, yeah, of course, it's a whole spectrum, yeah. And there are really good people in politics, and, we should be grateful to them. Picking up the tab.
That's my point, but
Okay.
But you have to be to do the job.
Emma, apologies, I'm struggling a bit hearing you, so that way I may have misrepresented what you said. Sorry. So, let me just ask you some other questions. We've just published the digest. We publish a digest every 2 months, and this one is on well, it's on how social media impinges on your life and on your practice, and vice versa. And I sidestepped that because I'm not very au fait with social media. But the thing that came up for me is how, and it's a real problem for younger folk, I know, but in a general sense, how do I lead my life? How do I lead my life? How do you lead your life? What is the thread in your life? What is the kind of life koan that keeps coming up for you? And a few questions come to mind when I ask myself that question, and maybe you can feed back to me what may be relevant for you. Well, the first question is, is there any particular question or issue that's arising in your life right now? Yeah? Oh no? Yeah? There is a particular question and issue that's arising right now. Yeah. Anyone else? You're all kind of cooled out and happy, and you haven't got any issues?
It's more a question of trying to work out which one comes first.
Okay. So, which of the multitude? Yeah. But would it be fair to say that most of us have some question that's arising for us presently? If you look back, has this issue or question come up before? Yeah?
It's become more prominent with the practice as the practice.
Become more prominent, okay.
Practice is going on.
Okay. Is there any particular issue that has really grabbed you, continues to grab you, grabbed you in the past and grabs you now? Some question, issue, circumstance in your life that kind of pops up on a repetitive basis?
Death.
Yeah.
Anybody want to share what with us? Yeah?
For me personally,
I'm glad it's personal, it is for you.
It's always me. No, for me personally, it always comes back to my life and what is this
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
This, what is this?
What is this is your question, yeah. Okay.
Always
Thank
comes
you.
back to that.
Okay.
For me, it's how do I live a life of peace and compassion? Because when I haven't, and all too often I haven't, that's caused suffering for myself and it's caused suffering for others. So it's working on that. It's a kind of life column.
Okay.
How do I?
How are you doing?
I'd say I'm doing okay. I'm not brilliant, but it's getting, you know.
Okay.
It's some, you know, moon face blood.
Okay.
Face blood,
So, okay. Anyone else? What's the kind of red thread in your life of an issue that you can't really settle?
Well, I wouldn't dare say.
That's what I'm aware of. For most of us here, we wouldn't dare say. I'm trying to persuade and encourage
Because
and cajole.
then people are encouraged to think of you that way.
Well,
I would be afraid of that.
Yeah, well, that's all our fear, isn't it? Thanks for saying that, Ish, because that is our fear, that people will see us in a particular way if we say something or disclose something or show some vulnerability. But I don't think that's the case. I think often people are actually appreciative and grateful because, as you said, Roger said at the very beginning, when he realised he wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. When he discovered that we were all suffer. So it's great when we share stuff with each other. It helps us all feel a bit better about ourselves, you know. So you don't need to, but you know, if you want to.
I'm still too afraid.
You're still okay. Thank you.
The thing I've repeatedly grappled with is the inner judge.
Oh, the inner judge, yeah. Oh, the bloody inner judge, yeah.
It really does make my life a misery sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. The inner judge. Is that familiar for any folk? The inner judge. Yeah. Do you remember that guy who used to write in the Observer called the Barefoot Warrior? Yeah. He actually wrote a book, a big fat book. The Barefoot Warrior. I remember he said, "If your inner judge gets too much, take him outside and give him a punch."
Tried that.
Or hair, of course. Hair inner judges it justice.
We call ours the inner Christmas Humphreys, can't we?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Well, sometimes the judge has also got to be naked.
Sometimes the judge has got to be naked, yeah. That's right, or on the toilet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think mine is that sort of everyone going constantly to become something.
To become something, yeah.
To try to sort of fill some hole of a sense of value in myself. Just trying to achieve being someone, making something of myself.
Right.
To feel okay.
Would that be to do with being seen in the world, being kind of acknowledged by the world?
Yes,
yeah.
That's the way I seek to do that.
Yeah. You know, I think it's a bit like people who haven't been to university think they should have gone, and people who've been think you didn't really need to bother, you know. I think acknowledgement's a bit like that, you know. You get in, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't work.
I find that what's really difficult for me is that I'm carrying things from childhood, and I think they go into my unconscious, and I know there's something like it's carrying rocks or something, and it's finding a way to be aware of it more, to understand it more, and not carry it so you know, to be
identified with it so much. That
you know, and you could be carrying something for a long time, and you don't know, but you do know, and somehow you're stuck in it, and you want to free yourself of it, but sometimes it's really hard because it's so entrenched, like a default mechanism that you might have been carried from a child, and you're still using it as an adult, but it's not working anymore.
It doesn't work, You know, that brings a really interesting, for me, question, which I've posed for myself sometimes. When if you've got some way of being, some characteristic, and you're not happy with it, but it sticks, do you carry on working with it, or do you say, fuck it, that's the way I am?
That was very much the question you asked in your recent letter.
Yeah.
You know, and above all, don't wobble. And I'm thinking, well, I'm very good at wobbling. That's
Yeah.
what I do. It's like keep changing between one and the other.
Okay.
It's like that Christian prayer, God grant me change, accept the things I cannot change the things I cannot accept,
Yeah.
and the things I know to do.
Yeah. Well, it's as Miranda said at the end of that piece I wrote for the digest. Sorry, you've reminded me, Miranda. I've already beat. What I say is, once we understand our essential fear or dilemma, we can articulate our basic life cone. We can then choose to really embrace it and accept it as who we are, or we can decide to change and allow the old stories we tell ourselves about who we are to drop away and bring a new freshness to our lives. The second sounds much more attractive, doesn't it? Bring some new freshness. But it can also be the old inner judge can keep coming up. You know, we keep trying. If there is some way we are that we're unhappy with, and we keep struggling to change it, and it doesn't work. That can be really kind of distressing, you know. So maybe at that point we say, "This is the way I am. You know, I'm going to embrace that, and I'm going to be upfront about it. I'm not going to be, you know."
The thing that, well, one of the things that I really struggle with is selfishness and self-centeredness.
Yeah.
You know, really wanting the world to be good for me, and all of that. But then, I don't know, trying to be that fully seems really destructive.
I don't know what your inner life's like, Alistair, but you don't strike me as. I mean, even being prepared to talk about it is, you know, you're well on your way. I imagine, I don't know. I mean, maybe the most selfish people keep it really secret. Because maybe that's the way they move, by keeping it really secret. So that's the fact that you've fronted and told us is indicative that you're on the spectrum. You're not very selfish.
Oh, I am.
We don't want those "I'm more poor than you" arguments. You know, I've finished. I'm really happy. We've got a couple of minutes if anybody wants to say anything about how they feel and what they think. Francis, forgive me, do say what you'd like to say. I've kind of shut you down before.
I have nothing to say.
Haven't you? Okay. Is that as a shyness or out of, you just don't have anything to say?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, thank you.
Sensei, I think one of the biggest gifts practice has given me personally is the opportunity and ability to embrace myself as I am. So if there are things that I might choose to focus on and work on, that's okay as well. But warts and all, this is me.
Okay.
Who else can I be?
No.
Exactly.
You occupy your own unique corner of the universe.
I do.
You do. We all do. Yeah. Yeah. That's what's fascinating about uniqueness, isn't it? We're all unique. Okay, I'm done. Thank you, everyone.